Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. It's about time we start talking about this Missouri Tigers team, not only as a dark horse in the SEC, but a legit contender in this conference. We got a lot of Missouri fans who listen, and we've kind of been talking about this program heading into the year as being a dark horse. I think through the first couple games, this team is emerging as more than just a dark horse, but a legit contender in the conference. And I'll tell you why. It's not because they're littered with five-star talent on both sides of the football. It's because this team, you look top to bottom, offensive side of the football, the defensive side of the football, all the units on both sides, this team doesn't have many holes. And because they're so complete in an era where the transfer portal kind of damages so many rosters and so many rosters are getting turned over, there's not a lot of teams across the country that can say they have a complete roster with very little holes. I think the Missouri Tigers can certainly say that. Excited to get into what I've seen from this Missouri team through the first couple games. Before we do, just want to say one, thank you to you guys and especially the Missouri fans. Y'all, we've talked about this program a lot. The support from you guys truly does mean a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, would love to hear your guys' thoughts. This is a program and a team that the first 2 weeks of the season, you're scratching your head a little bit. And then the last two games, this is a Missouri team that's legit dangerous, beat a legitimate top 20 team in Kansas State. And we're talking about a team that I think can do some serious damage in the SEC. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Without further ado, let's get into it. I want to start on the offensive side of the ball and probably owe Brady Cook a little bit of an apology. I was always kind of a fan of Brady Cook. It was never pretty last year, but when you look at his numbers and when you look at his ability to just be a gamer, move the chains when he needs to, he always seemed to get the job done. But I kind of called him maybe a mid-level SEC quarterback, and there was a time where I wanted Jake Garcia to come in and be the starter. And Brady Cook's been absolutely phenomenal. A couple of the stats that are jumping off the paper, and you see this on the film when you turn on the games, they're hitting the explosive play. This is a team that these are some very impressive stats that I'm about to read off. 11.3 yards per pass. That is number 4 in the country. They are hitting the deep ball at an extremely high level, getting guys like Marquise Johnson, Luther Burden loose on a regular basis. Here's the kicker, though. They're also completing 70% of their passes. That is top 20 in the country. So you're being an efficient offense that's completing a lot of footballs and hitting the explosive play. That is a very good combination to putting points up on the board. And you look at this wide receiver room, it is not lack of talent. Luther Burden is emerging as not only one of the best wide receivers in the SEC, but in the whole entire country. If there was something I want to note that maybe Missouri fans should just keep an eye on is Luther Burden is accounted for almost half of the catches on this Missouri team, right? Brady Cook's completed, I believe, 70 passes. Luther Burden, 32 catches. So this offense is heavily skewed to Luther Burden, which is not necessarily a bad thing. When you have a playmaker like Luther Burden, get him touches anywhere you can, how you can, and they're certainly doing that. But at a certain point, I think there's going to be some teams in this SEC conference that are going to notice this and say, hey, we got to take Luther Burden, kind of try to limit his ability to impact the game. And you're going to have to start relying on some other pass catchers on this Missouri offense to kind of be playmakers. Now, the good news is I think they certainly got those guys, right? Theo Weiss Jr., people forget, he's a senior. He was a 5-star coming out. He's extremely talented. I would like to see him get a little bit more involved in the offense. Mookie Cooper, extremely solid pass catcher. Marquise Johnson, coming in, boasts a 10-3 100-meter dash time, one of the fastest players in college football. Yes, he's a true freshman, but that speed, that's going to translate. When you're the fastest player on the football field, you can go play and hit some explosive plays. The good news for Missouri is I don't think they're one-dimensional in the passing game. Yes, Luther Burden is accounting for a lot of the production in that wide receiver pass catcher room. That being said, you have some legit targets that can also hit those explosive plays and kind of produce if teams want to put a safety over Luther Burden and really try to take him out of the offense, which, again, not a team has been able to do so far. And then you look at the run game. Brady Cook, phenomenal. This dude, I think he epitomizes college football. Tough quarterback that can get it done on the ground. But you're also seeing that run game kind of come to life, right? Garrett Schrader and Nathaniel Pete, they're starting to get it going. Another thing that I think is getting better, and a unit that I would say has underperformed to this point, but I think is getting better, is that offensive line. Brady Cook is taking a lot of hits. And if you guys remember us talking about Missouri heading into the year, it was this offensive line is legit. And I still do think it's a really good group. I think you have some transfers kind of coming in that they might need to play a little bit better together. The best part is, though, you have the personnel. Like, this offensive line, once it puts it together, I think is one of the top offensive lines in the SEC. Missouri's undefeated, and I don't even think you've seen the full extent of this offensive line playing their best ball. And if you see that, I mean, you're checking the quarterback box in a big way. You're checking the explosive play box. You're running the football better. And if this offensive line continues to get better, I mean, this is an offense that I don't even think has hit their ceiling on what they can be. And again, looking at all the boxes you want to check, they're hitting explosive plays. I think this offensive line has the guys to be good. You have that dynamic pass catcher with a really solid quarterback. This offense, when you look at it on paper, like, it's not a surprise that they're putting up a lot of points in a lot of these games. Now, talking about why we think this team is special, you look on the defensive side of the ball, and although, again, there's not a obvious, like, it's not littered with 5 stars and a ton of talent, but you look at this defense, each unit, and we'll go down and talk about each one. There's not a hole in this group. Now, the defensive line was my biggest concern heading into the year. You lose a guy like Isaiah McGuire, that production is hard to replace. I thought he was one of the better pass rushers in that SEC conference last year. What they're doing here, and you see a lot of teams do this, they're not replacing that production with one guy. It's a committee approach. I mean, you're getting good reps from Darius Robinson, Niles Gaddy. I think Jerrigan is playing some really good ball on the inside. Although you don't have that Isaiah McGuire, that alpha pass rusher, I think you have a defensive line that is getting it done as a committee. And if you can't get pressure with your front four, you do have one of the best blitzing linebackers, one of the best linebackers in the country, but really excels with his blitzes, in Tyron Hopper. And so, yeah, okay, maybe there's some games where we don't have the guys to impact the quarterback. You can scheme up some blitzes with some really, really good linebackers. And then you look in the back end. And if you want to blitz, like, you can have these cornerbacks, these safeties, they can play on their own in the back end. They don't need much help. Chris Abrams-Drain, a guy that Tyron Hopper, Chris Abrams-Drain, they could be playing in the NFL if they wanted to right now. Chris Abrams-Drain, put some respect on his name, is playing like one of the best cornerbacks, not only in the conference, but in the country. I think you have a really good set of safeties as well. And then, I mean, even a guy like Norwood kind of coming in some reserve, I think he's playing some really good ball too. My overall take on this Missouri team and why it's going to continue to fly under the radar, but not for us, is, yeah, it's not a team that's littered with the 5-star talent. It doesn't have a Heisman hopeful, though I think Luther Burden certainly has a really good argument, maybe even Brady Cook as well. But it has a complete roster that plays disciplined football. It doesn't turn the ball over, and it doesn't beat themselves. And if you can have that in an era of college football where, yeah, teams might have some real playmakers, but not a complete roster, that can win you a lot of games. And I think that's exactly what you're seeing for the Missouri Tigers right now. And if you can get through Vanderbilt, take care of business on the road, you are hosting LSU. I would pick it for B game day. Like, I think that's a really, really fun matchup at home. This is going to be a team that not a lot of people are talking about right now, but in 2 weeks when they're playing LSU undefeated, like, I think a lot of people are going to be talking about this Missouri program. Really, really excited for what this team can do in the future and in this 2023 season. Coach Drink, I think, has this program humming. I think one more thing I'd add is I think you're checking a lot of the boxes in terms of, like, the leadership too. Like Brady Cook, I think a lot of those guys, they see him playing hurt. Like, they see him kind of, making it happen. They got the leadership. Like, they had guys like Tyron Hopper and Chris Abrams-Drain come back to play and do something special in 2023. So you combine a complete depth chart, hitting the explosive plays, really good quarterback, extremely solid defense at all 3 levels. That's the makings of a special team that, again, is not going to capture ESPN and Fox Sports, and they're not going to be talking about this Missouri team. But I think they're going to keep winning some games. Really excited for this program. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content as my mic falls, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.